They called me outdated, a relic. My own children laughed when I asked them to visit, except when they wanted money. For years, I kept quiet, pretended not to notice. Until one summer afternoon, I realized something. They didn't love me. They loved what I could give, so I gave them something they'd never forget. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you sacrificed everything for, hit that subscribe button. Like this video and stick around because this story isn't just about revenge. It's about rediscovering self-worth after decades of being used. Comment below, where are you listening from? Your response could help my story reach more people. Let's dive in. My name's Robert Hall, and for most of my life, I believed being a good father meant providing. I worked construction hard, sunburned, and proud. My hands have more scars than I can count, each one a reminder of what I built. Not just homes, but futures. I raised two kids, Evan, my oldest, and Lily, my youngest. Their mother passed when they were still in school. After that, I promised her at her bedside, I'll take care of them, always. And I did. College tuition? Covered. First car? Paid in full. Wedding gifts, rent money, emergencies, always handled. At first, I thought their gratitude was genuine. Evan would call sometimes. Hey, Dad, how's work going? Lily would stop by on Sundays. We'd have dinner, laugh about old times. But then life changed. They got comfortable, entitled. It started small missed birthdays, unreturned calls. I'd leave messages, my voice cracking, hey, just checking in. Days would pass. Nothing. Then came the subtle insults, hidden behind laughter. Dad, you still using that flip phone? Come on, old man. Ever heard of online banking? They'd laugh and I'd force a smile. But inside, I felt something. Fray, I told myself they were just young, caught up in their own lives. But deep down, I knew. Something was slipping away. I kept trying. I offered to help them around their houses, sent care packages, even dropped by unannounced once only to find Lily rushing me off the porch like I was some door-to-door salesman. Dad, it's just not a good time right now, she said, barely looking at me. The door closed, and I stood there on her porch, holding a bag of groceries, feeling like a ghost in my own family. The pattern continued. Every text, every visit, every interaction only happened when they needed something. Evan needed money for rent. Lily needed a temporary loan for her new boutique. Neither paid me back. They never even brought it up. One day, I overheard Evan talking to Lily on speakerphone while he thought I was out of earshot. Dad's so stuck in the past, he laughed. Yeah, Lily added. If he'd just sell that old house, we could actually do something useful with the money. Something useful. That house, the one I built with my bare hands. The one where their mother and I raised them. That word clung to me for days. Useful. I stopped sleeping well. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering where I went wrong. Was it because I gave too much? Or because I never made them work for it? The breaking point came one afternoon when Evan came by unannounced. He strutted in, all smiles, the smell of expensive cologne filling the room. Hey, Dad, he said, casually dropping onto the couch. Can you wire me some cash for rent? Before the month's over. It wasn't a request. It was an expectation. He didn't even ask how I was doing. Didn't notice the half-empty coffee cup, the unopened mail, the stack of medical bills on the table. Something inside me shifted. Not anger, not yet. Just a kind of cold clarity. Sure, I said softly. I can do that, he smiled, patting my shoulder. You're the best, Dad. Always have been. And in that moment, I realized he wasn't complimenting me. He was confirming that I was still his safety net, his wallet, his fool. When he left, I sat there for a long time, staring at the door. My reflection stared back faintly in the glass of the picture frame beside me, standing with them when they were kids, both grinning, covered in mud from the backyard. Back then, I was a hero. Now, I was just an ATM with wrinkles. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to beg for respect. I was going to plan. The first step was silence. I stopped reaching out, stopped offering help. And like clockwork, they disappeared. Weeks went by, then months. During that time, I started noticing something peace. The quiet wasn't painful anymore. It was freeing. I began volunteering at a local shelter. Met people who asked how I was doing, not what I could give. There was Martha, a retired nurse who ran the kitchen. She had this way of listening that made you feel seen. And Jake, a young volunteer who helped me carry groceries every Saturday. He'd lost his father years ago, and sometimes he'd stick around just to talk about life. They reminded me what real connection felt like, uncomplicated, genuine. That's when I started planning for the long term. I called a lawyer, a quiet, meticulous man named Mr. Dawson. We met in his office, surrounded by shelves of leather-bound books. "So, Mr. Hall," he said, flipping through the pages of my file, "you're looking to make some changes to your estate?" "Yes," I replied. "I want everything handled discreetly, and I want it done right." We spent hours going over details, wills, trusts, charitable donations. I redirected everything, my savings, my insurance, my home. All of it went to people who had shown me care without asking for anything. I left that office lighter than I'd felt in years. Every document I signed, every clause I approved was a quiet act of reclaiming myself. At night, doubts would whisper, "Are you being cruel? Is this too much?" But then I'd remember their laughter, their indifference, their mockery. No, this wasn't cruelty, it was justice. Months passed. I lived simply, happily. Evan texted once in July. "Hey Dad, haven't heard from you. Everything good?" Translation: "You still alive to pay my rent?" I replied, "Everything's taken care of." And that was that. But then, late autumn, they both showed up together, something they hadn't done in years. They pulled into my driveway in matching smugness, as if they were about to stage an intervention. "Dad," Evan began, fake concern dripping from his voice, "we were thinking about helping you organize your affairs. Make sure everything's in order." Lily chimed in, "We just want to make sure you're taken care of." Taken care of. The same phrase they used when talking about selling my house behind my back. I gestured toward the kitchen. "Come in, let's talk." We sat around the same table where I'd once taught them to balance a checkbook. Now, they were here to claim the spoils. I let the silence linger, watching their eyes dart toward the old filing cabinet near the wall, where they assumed the will was. Finally, I said, "You'll be happy to know. I already took care of everything." Both their heads turned to me. "What do you mean?" Evan asked. "I finalized my estate plans last month," I said calmly. "Everything goes to the people who've truly cared for me." Lily blinked, confused. "Wait, what do you mean by that?" I looked at her squarely. "Martha, Jake, the shelter. The people who were there when you weren't." The silence that followed was almost physical. Evan's jaw clenched. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious." Lily's voice started shaking. "Dad, that's not right. We're your family." I stood slowly, the chair creaking under the weight of the years behind me. "No," I said quietly. "Family shows up. Family cares. Family doesn't vanish until it's time to collect." Their faces shock, denial, anger all at once. And for the first time in decades, I wasn't afraid to let the silence speak for me. Evan stood up, his voice rising. "You can't just give away everything. The house, it's ours." "You said—" "I said I'd take care of you," I interrupted. And I did. For 30 years. But taking care of you doesn't mean feeding your greed forever. He opened his mouth to argue again, but I'd already turned toward the window. The late autumn sun bled through the curtains, casting long shadows across the table like time itself drawing a line between us. "You think this is fair?" Lily demanded, her tone wobbling between fury and disbelief. "After everything we've been through?" I faced her. "What exactly have we been through, Lily? Because from where I stand, it's been a long list of withdrawals, excuses, and silence." Her lip trembled, and for a second, I saw a flicker of the little girl she used to be, the one who'd sit on my shoulders during 4th of July parades. But it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by a look of contempt. "You're being manipulated," she spat. "By strangers who just want your money." I let out a slow, measured breath. "Funny, that's exactly what I used to think about you." The room fell silent. Even the clock on the wall seemed to pause. Evan took a step closer, fists tightening. "Dad, you're making a mistake you can't undo." I met his eyes and said softly, "No, son. I'm undoing the biggest mistake I ever made, raising you to believe love comes with a price tag." That was it. The moment the truth hit them. You could see it in their faces, the disbelief curdling into rage, the realization that their easy inheritance had slipped through their fingers for good. Lily's voice cracked as she whispered, "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said. "But at least this time the regret will be my own doing." They stormed out, Evan slamming the door so hard a photo frame rattled off the wall. It was a picture of the three of us from years ago. I bent down, picked it up, brushed the dust off the glass, and set it back upright. Only this time I didn't feel the sting of nostalgia. I felt peace. The days that followed were eerily quiet, but not empty. I went back to my routine morning walks, coffee at the diner, volunteering at the shelter. Martha noticed right away. "You look lighter," she said one morning, pouring me a cup of coffee. "Maybe I finally set something down," I told her. She smiled. "Sometimes letting go is the best kind of revenge." And she was right. Because the true revenge didn't come from taking anything away, it came from showing them they never really had me to begin with. Still, I knew my kids wouldn't take this lying down. They'd grown too used to winning. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, I got a call from Mr. Dawson, my lawyer. "They've contacted my office," he said, voice dry as sandpaper. "They're trying to contest the will." I let out a slow sigh. "Let them try." He chuckled. "That's the spirit, Mr. Hall. Fortunately, we did everything by the book. They won't have a leg to stand on." The hearing was small, quiet, just a few benches in a county courtroom, sunlight cutting through the blinds in narrow stripes. Evan sat on one side with his lawyer, jaw tight, avoiding my gaze. Lily sat beside him, mascara streaked from tears she probably rehearsed. When my name was called, I stepped forward. Mr. Dawson handed the judge a thick folder, the will, the documentation, the witnesses' statements. He spoke calmly, professionally. Everything was executed in full mental capacity, with intent, and witnessed independently. There's no ambiguity here. Their lawyer sputtered something about undue influence, but the judge cut him off. "Do you have any evidence that your client's father was coerced?" Silence. The judge flipped through the pages, then looked up at me. "Mr. Hall, is this your decision, made freely?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "It's the only decision in my life that feels truly mine." She nodded once, then stamped the folder shut. "Then this court finds no reason to contest the will. Case closed." Evan's fist hit the table so hard the sound echoed off the walls. Lily burst into tears. "You're really going to let him do this?" She cried out to the judge. The judge looked at her evenly. "He already has." I turned to leave, pausing for just a moment. I didn't want to gloat, but I did want to look them in the eye. "Goodbye, kids," I said quietly. "Take care of yourselves. It's time you learned how." And with that, I walked out, no backward glance, no hesitation. The air outside the courthouse felt different, crisper, freer. The world looked brighter, sharper, as if every color had finally returned after years of dull gray. That evening, I sat on my porch, the same one they once called outdated. I watched the sun set over the backyard, a soft golden hue washing over the garden. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel old. I didn't feel forgotten. I felt alive. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into the shelter work. We expanded the pantry, renovated a few rooms with leftover supplies from my old construction days. Jake and I fixed the roof ourselves. Martha laughed every time I cursed at the crooked shingles. One night, we held a small dinner at the shelter, a thank you gathering. As I looked around the table at those faces, grateful, kind, genuine, I realized something powerful. I hadn't lost a family. I just found a new one. The money I once thought was my legacy was never the real treasure. It was the love, the time, the small gestures that made a life meaningful. And now, every bit of it was finally going to people who understood that. Revenge, I learned, doesn't always need to burn. Sometimes it just needs to close a door quietly, leaving behind only peace. My kids still haven't reached out. And I don't expect they ever will. But if they ever do, if one day they knock on this door again, I'll open it. Not because they deserve it, but because I finally understand forgiveness isn't for them. It's for me. Have you ever had to reclaim your life from someone who took your love for granted? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story struck a chord with you, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more real stories where justice isn't loud, it's crafted. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is peace itself.